on. Starting timer. And 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Everett. We are here with Nick. Nick, what's your last name?
I think it's Demore.
Nick Dumouriez, which is my last name because Nick is my son. And we are here at Nick's new house. Nick is 25 years old, has his first house, is married. And the reason that we wanted to do this here, because I'm thinking about myself at 25 years old. Myself at 25 years old would be in a tiny apartment smaller than this kitchen.
Sure.
Waking up and deciding on what I could sell. So as a 25-year-old person, you are way ahead of me. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. I was also thinking about the fact that if I was my 25 self, and your 25 self, we would have nothing in common. You would not be returning my calls. You would Melissa would not be allowing me to sleep on your couch anymore, that sort of thing. So I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about some deeper stuff, and I want to jump into something and that you're probably going to be mad at me about.
Sure. I'm mad at you a lot. So
well, you're gonna be mad at me. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I was thinking when we were planning on doing this, I was thinking your wedding.
Sure.
And I was thinking about how a father is supposed to act on his son's wedding. You're my oldest son. You got married, all that pride, and I was extremely proud of you, extremely proud of your choice. That wedding was so hard for me because I felt like the world was going, isn't that the guy that never taught his kids how to sing?
Oh my God.
Isn't that the guy that never took his son on an airplane vacation? Isn't that, I just felt such a phony because at that point, at your wedding is supposed to be looking back and all the things that I did for you, and it was never enough. I felt horrible at your wedding. I just did.
Interesting, okay.
So does that make you feel bad that I felt horrible?
That you feel bad? Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me. Because, I mean, we can talk about it more, but it feels like you beat yourself up a lot over my childhood, and I think I had a great childhood. I literally, and before, I mean, I don't know how you want to structure this, we're going to go super deep from the beginning, yeah. But I just was talking to a psychiatrist, because I'm getting my meds adjusted and stuff like that. And, you know, they sit down and they have you list, I told you a little bit about this, they list the different things that happened to you. Were you abused? Were you this? Were you that? And nothing. Everything is no.
File.
Right. Who did you live with? My parents? What other option? Obviously. Right. But, like, I didn't even think about it. And I was like, were you abused? Did your parents split up? Did you do this? Did you whatever? It was like, and I'm like, I had a pretty good childhood. I'm like, my life is really boring now when I'm going through this whole psych checklist, because it's, have you ever been to prison? Have you ever smoked? Have you ever killed a man in Singapore?
We can fix all that
yeah,
stuff.
The night is young. But no, and that just got me thinking of, like, I didn't have any crazy thing in my childhood. So I know you look at it like you never, there's certain things that you didn't do, but I don't miss it. I don't think I would have been. You said airplane vacation. I could care less about going in an airplane.
And I think I think it's a male thing, and I think it's a father thing that you feel that it's never enough.
But I think you would have had that regardless. I don't think you'd ever be satisfied, and I think I'll probably do this same thing when I have a kid.
Right.
I think it's going to be the same thing. I think that's a fatherhood thing. I don't think that's a you thing. I think you're always, because it's what you do with everything. You think it's never going to be good enough. I could have been doing better. It's literally everything.
But you know what the funny thing is, and not to sound like a total jerk, but you want to go into those people who were horrible fathers, never were around, and sit there and go, yeah. My job's done now. hell? And you want to take a couple of drops of their blood, just a few, because not the total jerk amount, but just a few people that. It reminds me, there was a guy that I worked with that I had a boss that was just the sweetest guy in the world, and he would have an issue with this guy, and instead of saying, "Hey, you know, Steve, you can't do this anymore," he would call everybody to this meeting, and he would go, "We've got some issues with this," and everybody knew it was Steve, and Steve would turn around and go, "Yeah, you guys." But there is some wisdom in taking a couple of drops of that Steve blood. And how do you do that? Because the 25-year-old Nick is wiser than the 25-year-old Everett, and is pretty close to the 57-year-old Everett. So I'm asking, how do you... There are those people that are just as off balance the other way, and how do we learn from them?
I think the biggest thing is you don't spend too much time thinking about it. I think that's really what it is. And I think it's the other thing is, I don't think they're probably not as bad, because they don't think they're bad parents.
No. So
they're probably not bad parents. Obviously, if you're looking at extremes like you're abusing your kid or you're not taking care of your kid, but if you're looking at like, oh man, they just sit around and watch TV, maybe that's just what they do. That doesn't necessarily make them a bad father, you know? I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like comparing it to, you have your specific, let's just use like your vacation example, you know, if that's your one deciding factor. Obviously there's more involved in that, and that's what you're using, that they don't really think about that,
right?
I guess. I don't know.
Their gauges are different.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's just the overthinking thing. I think that's what it comes down to, honestly.
But as a guy, I mean, I think as a man, we and I don't know, because I don't think like a woman, but I think as a man, our priorities are different. And I think we judge ourselves differently on certain things. I mean, it's money, it's house, it's kids, it's this, you know, did you coach your kids? Did you do this? Did you do that? So if you go through that checklist, it's easy to be in your wedding going, people are just staring, because it was, I don't know if I ever took it, that was just, I felt like I didn't deserve to be there.
Oh my gosh.
I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. And maybe that's because the fatherhood thing was such a big deal to me that you're never going to get to the level where you go, did it, done.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't exist. That I did everything that I could do as a father doesn't exist, because you're always going to tell yourself, I could have been doing this, I could have done this, I could have jump roped, I could have killed a man in Singapore, like, you know, you're always going to have that. So I don't think that level exists.
Spent a lot of time in Singapore.
Yeah, well, that's always been your go-to, so I'm trying to go back.
Well, here's the other thing too. I'm acting like you're dead.
Yeah,
I'm acting like the fatherhood deal is over. It's not. You know,
basically just started.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, most of it is obviously growing up, but yeah, you're not going anywhere. This is the part where I'm going to need the adult lessons the most, because I just paid my first mortgage like a week ago.
As soon as we find an adult, we can both go to talk to them. You know, with you and your brother, the one thing I am it's going to sound cheesy. The one thing I am so proud of both of you is both of your moral compasses are set. You both. You know, the other thing is you both have these incredible work ethics.
Yeah,
both of you do.
Yeah, it's almost to a fault sometimes.
Yeah, to the edge. I mean, your brother gets to work half an hour early every day.
Yeah.
You know
I get to work an hour.
Yeah, I mean, both of you have. I'm so proud of that. I think you got that from your mother. But yeah, that's incredible stuff. But I think it's really interesting that. Well, all right, let me throw it back to you. So, okay. Do you in your 25 years have regrets? Besides the fatherhood thing and the drugs and the prison.
Right, and the killing a man in Singapore, going back to that. I don't think so, because I learned from almost all of them. If they're regrets, they're stupid things, like why did I freaking eat that cheeseburger when I knew it was going to mess my stomach up, and then go freaking swimming. Like, it's little stuff like that. It's nothing big. Anything major that happened into my life, I don't know that I would have the same outlook of it. I don't know if I would have the work ethic. I think it all just shaped. It's that nature versus nurture. It all shaped from those things that I went through. So I don't think I have regrets. At least major ones, like I said.
See, at 25, I had tons.
But do you? But did you? Because I don't think you would be who you are, and you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't make those mistakes. Like, I did some stupid things. I've done a lot of stupid things, but I don't regret them only because I don't know where I would be without them, you know? Think of the fire for an example, you know? That taught us,
I burned our house down.
No, yeah, I don't know if we...
Yeah, burned our
I don't
house
know if that was established.
They do it on purpose, but I...
Yeah. You just had the FBI agent knocking on the door. He just admitted to arson.
Yeah. So I assumed that we had just real quick, I had a smoker in the backyard, and we smoked a ham, and a friend had given us a goose, and it was the next day, and it was solid ice where the charcoal was, and I dumped this solid ice chunk into the outside garbage can.
February in -12,
right.
2 days after.
And then about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours later, that house it caught the garbage can, the outside of the garage, and then shot through the house.
Literally the biggest fluke there's nothing you could have done different in that situation.
But see, the father thing and the male thing doesn't matter.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Right. I burnt my house.
Okay, but what if it was me? What if I was there at 25, let's say I decided to grill out, and I put it out. And
it wouldn't bother me at all.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Would not bother me. I never thought of it that way.
I know.
But if you did it, if you said, Dad, I want to learn to use the smoker, and you did the whole thing, and I would be consoling you, telling you nobody died.
Exactly.
Telling you everything. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And yes, I would. There's no doubt I would.
So maybe that's a mechanism for some of these things, is think of, if I did it instead of you, how would you react? And that's probably how you should be reacting.
I wouldn't have any anger towards you. My job would be to make sure you were okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but for 10 years.
And that's how we all look at it now. That's how we look at it now, because it literally, like I said, you explained it's the biggest fluke that possibly could have happened. So that's how we look back at it. So I wouldn't trade that, because I have great memories of sitting we lived in a hotel for like a week, and we were sitting and eating Boston Market. We had the suites, so you had the 2 different rooms, and Alex and I would be messing around because we go back in and we'd rescue different equipment. We had like the Xbox 360, so we had that hooked up to the TV in the hotel, which as your kids, that's the coolest thing, because this isn't my house. I can hook a system up to someone else's TV. So we get that, and I remember going with Austin, one of my best friend, went to see Tron Uprising at we got out at like 11 or midnight. I get to the hotel, and I realize I can't get in. So I think I snuck in with like the maintenance guy in the back. I was just like, I'm supposed to be here, like stuff like that. And I think we grew closer. You know, we lived in a rental lake.
For like 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
in the middle of summer, we had a lake. We freaking took that
Which
raft.
The only time that DeMaurier will have a lakefront property ever.
Yeah. It was really funny, because we always wanted to, instead of calling it the rental house or the substitute house, or the house that we're staying in because our house caught on fire, we would call it the lake house, because it made us feel more professional. So yeah, going back to the point, I don't regret. Obviously, it's not really. It's just a fluke. It's not something you can really regret, even if you wanted to, because you didn't know any better. But I wouldn't have changed that. I wouldn't have taken that away.
Yeah, and it's a great question, because I would not have blamed you if that had happened. An interesting note, when we got the call, I was with you, I was with Nick and his 2 friends, and we were at a Walmart. They were trying to get something.
Well, we'll back up even further. We were gonna go with one of my friends. My other friends decided to come, so we had to switch cars and take my mom's van, which was in the garage.
Right.
So if that was in there, that would have blown up. Anyway, go. Yeah.
So I went there because my company car, they were doing something with the Bluetooth. So I had to get a temporary headset for my phone. So we're off. The house catches on fire. My youngest son goes down and gets my wife, who's down on the treadmill downstairs, and she gets everybody out and calls me to tell me the house is on fire.
As you do.
So I picked the phone up, and I said, "This is a great time to use my new headset." I plug it in, and I hear this garbled, because my house is on fire.
Hi, Debbie. I'm calling you on my new headset. That's why it sounds so crystal clear.
She's going, "Oh no, it's and I go, "Well, this is stupid," and I hang up. I hung up on my wife, telling me the house was on fire. So I go to call her back, but she called me back, and I go, "This it can't be that complicated." So I take the call, and I hear, I go, "What? This thing is crap." So I unplug it, and then I hear the word, "But there's fire!" And I'm going, "Fire? Where's the roof, the system, everything, fire!" So now it hit me, the house is on fire.
Now I'll tell you from this perspective, because you tunnel visioned. So then you start ripping the thing out, and you're throwing it on the ground. You're hold on, what? And then you just start speeding. You're speeding through red lights. You're going through. So now you've made the call. You hung up. You're speeding towards home. We're heading there anyway. We're running like 7 red lights, and I'm like, "What are you gonna do if a cop comes?" He goes, "He can follow me there." I'm like, "Okay." And I was like, "That was a great story."
That is a great
we ran like 7, like the FBI agents coming back in again.
And all the times that you want the cops to follow you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, my favorite thing was the 3 of you guys, and as soon as they...
That was the next thing I was going to say.
There was-
Well, we're texting each other during it. We're all 3 of us are. Then we start a group text because he's like speeding and is gonna like shoot somebody. We're like, "Oh my gosh!" We're just texting each other like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening right now?" We're not talking. We're just sitting there texting like, speeding down there.
But see, here's a perfect example. So this is something that I still feel guilt about. Everything was great. We got 7 months in a lake house. It was a great experience.
You always do the running joke too, because you guys said at the beginning of the year we need a new roof. We need to do what I can't remember the other things.
Debbie said, "I don't care what it takes. I want a new roof and I want new living room furniture."
We got it.
I'm also going to give you new appliances, new walls.
Yeah.
Stick with me, baby.
Yeah, and a summer vacation at a lake house while you're at
7 months at a lake house. Yeah. So anything else you want?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, I don't...
But see, right now as we're talking about it, I can take that out and I can and I go, there's nothing to feel bad about. It was just one of those things. When this is over, it's going to come back. Mm-hmm. So what do I do because you're smarter than me? Or does it not matter?
It doesn't. It doesn't. But I think you use that as a mechanism. You do exactly what we just said. What if it was me? What if it was me? What if it was Alex? And if it was us that did it, how would you react? And you take that as a third person, and it's that same sort of there's a psychological term for it, but I can't remember it. But a lot of times they'll just call it self-talk, because most of the time it's just you need to just talk yourself down to do it. So like a lot of things with me, I suffer from a lot of just weird anxiety things. It's nothing crazy, but it's there, and it's just like irrational fears and stuff like that.
But
so
the head chicken thing is part of it, right? Biting the head
right.
chicken.
Oh yeah. Well, and yeah, I was gonna start going back to
this
Singapore. I was trying to bring it to Singapore again, but I couldn't get there. And every therapist I've ever gone to has been like, "Okay, what are you afraid of?" And I'm like, eating expired foods or somebody breaking into my house. Some really crazy fears that I have. And they're like, "Okay, have you ever eaten an expired piece of food?" No. If you have you gotten sick? No.
Those are your 2 fears that you really tell them?
Well, I get into more deep.
Okay.
It's more than just expired food. It's like, hey, let's talk about my deepest fears. It's like
the 9 people that are.
Well, it started with the wisdom teeth, and I had like painkillers on an empty stomach because I could only eat like mushy pudding, whatever. So I was basically eating nothing. So on an empty stomach, I had a hardcore painkiller, and I freaked out because I felt horrible, as you do when you're on an empty stomach. So then the whole time I'm like, I need to eat, I need to eat, I need to eat, I need to make sure my stomach's full. I can't take this medicine until my stomach is full. I'm gonna get sick, blah, blah, blah. And then that expanded to, oh my gosh, I'm gonna eat this, then I'm gonna feel bad, I'm gonna get sick, I'm gonna mess my stomach up, blah, blah,
So you're
blah.
like,
and then it just spiraled. So it started around with food. It's not necessarily expiration dates, it's stuff like that. So then they go, has that ever happened? No, only that one time, and I haven't done it since. If I'm hungry, I eat, you know, it's that kind of a thing. And then the burglar thing, has anyone ever broken in your house? No. Do you live in a safe neighborhood? I was like, I think so. I have an ADT security system. And they're like, all right, so are those fears rational or irrational? And you got to pick one. So I'm not going to say rational because it's not.
Right.
And now I know that it's irrational. So that's what I start doing when I start. Now, you're comparing anxiety to regrets and love, but it's a lot of the same things because that stuff just pops up and it nags at you, and it can be like an anxiety. So instead of going, is this irrational? What if it was Nick? I think that's.
And you know what's interesting about that too, because your grandmother, my mother, your grandmother, had huge fears, but every category of all the fears she had were stuff that she never did. Was she afraid of being poor? No, she was always poor. There was never afraid of being poor. Was she afraid of going hungry? No, you will always find something to eat. Was she afraid of water? She couldn't swim. Petrified of water. Stay away from water. Was she afraid of guns? She didn't hunt. I don't know if I told you this. When I was in 7th grade, she made me wear a hunting vest to walk to school. In case a stray bullet from 10 miles away.
That's always my favorite. We gotta talk about that for a second. It's like every older person, that's the you have like a toy gun or anything, and Mom was like this for a while, and I remember talking to an older person about this, and it was my grandmother, and she was like, you know, don't point that gun at somebody, and I'm like, it's a toy gun. Why? Because as a rebellious child, I'm going to question everything.
Was the Nerf gun on safety?
Yeah, I go. The answer for it is hilarious though. I go. What is it? This is a toy gun. Why can't I? What is the logic between this? I would like to know. I said it exactly. A very articulate 10-year-old, and she goes, "What if you get a real gun and you forget?"
Oh crap! I thought it was a Nerf gun.
Because that distinction is very clear. Because when I go into the freaking shooter's range, I walk in and go, "Hey, it's Nerf or nothing. Let me get your bright blue or orange weapons."
When I was in college, there was one of my housemates, Buckethead, used to grab the knife thing behind, and then Boozer would and he'd drop it, and Boozer would scream that same phrase. He'd go, "What if you forgot?"
Yeah, that's just always funny too. Yeah. But anyway, going back to her.
So everything that she was afraid of was things that she had no experience with. Never, ever, ever, ever. Yeah. You know, she was afraid of. She was petrified of snow. People are going to die of snow. You know, she's petrified of water.
Which is exactly why she moved to the Catskills in upstate New York.
Right.
As you do when you're afraid of snow.
Right. It makes perfect sense. But she wasn't afraid of, you know, poverty or anything like that. She was never afraid of that. I remember my mom, there would be something to come up and they would be going, we've got to help this person, you know. So they'd go off and they'd get money and they'd have, you know, there it is. There's the $100. And they would just be, okay. And then they go eat mushroom soup, you know, and everything. But there would just be such a pride in the fact that we did it. We helped them. Most people are going to be going, what are we going to do? No, that was the thing. But what if you walk outside and a stray bullet from 9 miles away? But because if you're wearing orange, it's going to turn.
Curves, yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly how that stuff works.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same sort of thing because my wife Melissa, she has a ton of different anxieties, and her anxieties are very different than mine. So it was funny because, like, again, I say back to, it only really started for me like 3 years ago. I didn't really have this kind of thinking, and I think for you it started sort of recently too. And I don't even know that you really classified anxiety, but I think with a lot of the
Mine's,
stuff that you
no, it's, I don't think there's a category for it.
Right. It's the DSM, the psychology book where they diagnose diseases is still working on it. They
it's called the Trelfaz raccoon syndrome.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was always hard, and because my mom, your wife, has a lot of different anxieties than we do too. So it's hard for me because, and I'm going to put her on blast and she's going to get mad. Her fears are about the people at my work hate me. My in-laws hate me. That's her fears.
Okay.
Those are completely irrational, obviously, right? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, your mom's thing is control. She wants to keep things control to keep people safe.
Right. Yeah. Control is a stronger word for it, but it's more so like, if you're outside of it, it's the same reason why she'll text me, and I know that me moving out sort of upsets her because what if something happens, I'm no longer in the house, that kind of a thing, right? But you don't get that.
Not that.
Right. And I don't get that. So well, with Melissa's, with, people don't like me, or, I'm gonna get sick or whatever, when I'm out going through. So I'll give you an example. She's gonna be so mad at me. When she first met you, or not first met you, but first came to your house, when I was living there, New Year's Day, we came over to go take down the tree.
Okay.
And she was freaking out because she said, what if I have to go to the bathroom? I don't know. I don't want to go to the bathroom in your parents' house.
She's going to kill you.
Yes.
Because right before
she's pretty open about this now because she's gotten over a lot of that part.
But you have no idea.
I have a point
before you got there, we were talking
about
yeah.
Well, my favorite part is I'm this kid who I just asked her to be my girlfriend the day before, right? So we're one day dating. I'm this little, I'm, what was I, 17? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to impress this girl and getting her to meet my parents at my house and blah, 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 whatever. So she goes, I don't want to use the wrong hand towels. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we don't have to, we can go do something else after we get that. And then I didn't even, because I was so smitten by her, that didn't process. Because now I'd be like, because we've been married for 2 years, and I'd be like, what are you talking about?
Imagine? I mean, we would never have given that blessing.
So going back to...
She comes from a good family. Nick seems to really... Wait a minute.
These are my...
She used the yellow hand towels.
There's the embroidered. They've been in my family for a generation.
Well, where was she raised?
So, and stuff like that, going back to irrational, but to her, that's the thing. And so I would always be like, well, mine are real because I'm afraid of getting sick when I eat too much food or not enough, or people breaking into my house.
Right.
So you need to take your irrational. They're both just as
irrational. Try to be normal like me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would catch myself thinking that, where I would be like that doesn't, because it's different. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't have any. We've talked about like. Extrovert versus introvert. You and I are introverted. Both of our spouses are extroverted. You and I are extroverted. Both of our spouses are introverted. So those fears, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it just to even it out, so you feel a little better.
Sure.
Because those things that you're afraid of or don't like they're goofy. They're goofy, and because as I'm listening to them, they're goofy. But not as goofy as a guy that won't allow someone in the line shopping to allow them in because that's charity. To me.
Yeah.
To me, that's real. To me, if someone says you only have 3 things, go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you want to see his brain explode or almost fight an old lady in a Walmart.
If they insist, I will pretend I've got a phone call and we'll go off because that's charity to me. To me, that makes perfect sense. To you, the idea
that's the
of
dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's the dumbest.
Actually, I've gone to a new level now. The newest one, because this has to do all with self-worth. This has to do with the fact that I'll do it with driving too. If someone wants to let me in, I'll put, and if they make me go ahead of them, because now I owe them, and now it's in my mental debt.
But what's funny about that is, if you really look at it, it's almost the other end. It's almost pride. It's almost I'm more important than, because you think that they honestly are thinking that, which they're not. I mean, we could dive into that another time if you want. That's just what I always find interesting about that, because it's almost to the point where you're so extreme that I'm not worth this or whatever, or
and
I'm taking something with somebody else.
Pride, but I get that.
Right.
I
Right.
get. Here's the newest psychosis. So you go to Aldi's and you get the shopping cart,
Right.
and you put the quarter in the shopping cart, and then you take the thing and you get the thing. I leave the shopping cart. Getting my quarter back is charity. I won't go back and get my quarter back.
So you inconvenience an employee who has to put that back. I mean, ideally, in your perfect world, somebody comes right afterwards and doesn't have to put their quarter in.
No, I don't take it back there. I leave it in the store. I leave it in the store.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're right. I'm inconveniencing someone for it. Yeah. But in my mind,
because now you've disrupted here's the entire Aldi ecosystem that you just disrupted. Is you to put a quarter in and you take a quarter out.
Right.
So now you have a quarter that's in.
Right.
So I can't just take. I got to plug it in order to take it out.
Right.
You know, this isn't my quarter.
Right.
Ideally, but now you've disrupted the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
So
Single-handed.
Aldi's in Dover, if you're wondering why all these carts keep showing up with quarters still in them, I have a culprit for you.
It's you're calling it pride, and I don't know that pride's the right word. I think it's almost.
I don't think it's the right word, but it's
But I think you're onto something. I think it is how I want someone to owe me, so I don't owe them.
Yeah.
So I want Aldi's to owe me. I want that lady that has the 57 things in the groceries to owe me.
Yeah.
Even if I'm never going to see that person again.
Yeah. Or even the other effect where you don't want to feel like you owe them anything. I mean, it's the same thing with where you do the what's that drive-through thing where you pay it forward and he loses his mind.
That happened once.
Yeah.
They bought my food.
So it's the thing where the person in front of you buys the food for the car in front and behind you. Yeah, so that happens. He can't do it. So going back to that doesn't make them real. So then it's going back to the self-talk to the rational versus irrational, and that helps some people. It might not help you in this situation to go, that's irrational. You know it's irrational. It's not going to stop you from doing it. With mine, it does, because it's like, okay, that's stupid. Nobody's going to go through. But with that kind of stuff, it can sort of be more complicated. So you could also use the mechanism that we just did is, if I did that, and I was upset about it and was talking to you about it, you would not think that was...
See, and there's nothing that you or Alex ever did that I go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did. I don't know that I'll ever forgive you for that.
And it's the same thing vice versa. So when you think you're this terrible father and you let your kids down and stuff like that, there's not even a second where I think, yeah, I wish he didn't do that. There's nothing.
Yeah. I read something this morning, actually, that I think was pretty interesting. It was talking the difference between, I'm probably going to mess it up. It's between shame and guilt. And this was interesting. So it was saying guilt is, I did something bad.
Right.
And shame is, I am bad. And I think I skip the guilt part and go right to the shame part. So, I burned our house down. I am bad.
Right, yeah.
I did these, things. I am bad. I skip the guilt.
Yeah.
I call myself a guilt catcher, but I think I'm a shame catcher. Mm-hmm. Because I take it personally, I am bad because I burnt my house down or I did these other things.
Yeah. But I think that's easy to do, because you just think these different things that you've done define you, but they're a sliver of the Everett pie chart, like it's nothing. And even I would argue it's a sliver, and it's not even a bad sliver, because like we were going on at the beginning about not having regrets about that stuff, because it literally, I don't know where I would be without half this stuff
I like the sliver of the Everett pie chart. That's my new band name.
Yeah, I just copyrighted it. It's verbal trademark, so I'm gonna need some royalties on that.
The Everett pie chart.
Yeah, so look for that in
but
t-shirt
you know what's
everywhere.
interesting about what you just said? Again, from the same thing I was reading this morning, that was pretty interesting. It was talking about this guy making up this list of all the people that they've hurt, that he's hurt, and then when possible, in person go and apologize. Hey, 10 years ago I did this horrible thing to you. And he said that he did this, and he said 90% of the time the person goes, I don't remember that.
Yep.
And you go, don't you remember? It was this horrible thing, and I did this. I tell you, I appreciate you telling me, but I really don't remember. So it's huge for you.
Yeah, there was this one, I was listening to this one podcast. It's really funny. This guy was like freaking out. He was telling this story about on Valentine's Day, there was this singing like barbershop quartet. It was like the extreme biggest quartet. Obviously it wasn't a quartet because there's like 500 people. And he ordered it to serenade his wife on Valentine's Day like 12 years ago. And so he was just telling the story, and then he realizes, I didn't pay those guys 12 years ago. So he's freaking out. He's like, I'm thinking it now. That, it's not like you walk up and you put a deposit on it in advance, and then the guys come in and they sing and they do whatever.
Right.
So he's thinking about it. And because it's a show that he does with two other guys, and he goes, I'm going to call them right now. So he calls them on the podcast, puts it through the Skype call so you can hear the person on the other line, and it's hilarious because he goes in and he goes like 12. He goes, and the guy that's in charge is like, I've been in charge for the past 10 years and I don't remember anything. And he goes, I think it was like $112. I have no idea what it was. I think it was like 50, 60, something like that with inflation. Right. Just so you know, when you can take the angry picture of me down, where can I send this? And they're like, if you want to make a donation, I mean, you can, but I don't. We have no record keeping of any of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he ends up sending them like a check and like plugs it or whatever. It was just so funny to me that. Going off that point, but just giving an example to it where it's like, yeah, they don't even think about it.
And it's funny, I was telling Steve the mailman, we have the greatest mailman in the world, Steve the mailman. And I was telling him, and I don't know how this really fits, but it was at the top of my head, so I wanted to say it. Because I think this is a perfect example of things that I have no guilt over whatsoever. They're serendipity, and it's just God saying, here you go.
Right.
So I was in North Carolina, probably about 23, 24 years old. No job, no money. I'm in a Burger King, and I bought a coffee because that's all the money I had. You know the story?
I think so. So there's a lot of weird North Carolina stories, so I'm trying to catalog which one it is.
Yeah, this is file 41683.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm in Pineville, North Carolina. I've got a cup of coffee. I have no place to stay. I have no money. And I'm going, God, you got this. Whatever you're going to do, you got this. And the girl comes back with a tray. She goes,
yes.
I am so sorry it took so long. And she brings the 2 cheeseburgers and I'm going, no problem. I know you guys are busy. But I have no guilt over that. No guilt whatsoever. That was just one of those things. And there's no... And it's just me. I don't go, I should go back to Pineville McDonald's and pay for that. None. That was just sick. So why is it with that one I go, thank you, God. But things that are pennies I still carry for years. Right. Why is
that? I don't even know. I mean, part of me wants to say circumstantially, I don't think you would have done anything like that. But if that happened now, it would have been the same thing. So I don't know that it's an age thing or a circumstance thing. I don't know. That's a good question. Because it's almost like, I don't.
But I think it's just. I mean, it's like you said. It's how you file them,
right? Yeah.
And how you.
Yeah, you let yourself be guilty over what you deem is in that week. So it's in the, going back to the pie chart thing, your chart, your circle, those little things you used to do at school with the 3 circle and then the overlap. So if you're comparing all of our anxieties, I don't have anxiety about getting a toothbrush at the dentist office,
sure.
But you don't care about someone breaking into your house, or, I mean, obviously you would if it happened, but you don't sit there and freak out about it. So it's just, if if the food falls into my bucket or your bucket, then it's going to be a guilt versus, I guess, is sort of how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's
where it falls, I guess.
It's interesting, but it's but you've given me some interesting perspective, because especially with the reaching out, because when I was reading that thing today about all the people that you should go back to that you asked for forgiveness, and this may be cheating, but I honestly believe the majority of them would go, "What the heck are you talking about?"
All of them. I don't think a single one would.
Because we make it so big, but they would just go. And what's funny is my list, and it's not a long list. My list of people that I would do that to are the people that really hurt me. Right. That I want to go, "I'm sorry, I made you hurt me."
Yeah. Yep.
And then when you start thinking about that, what?
Yeah, but everything. I would agree with that. The guilt that I have over previous situations is my reaction to being hurt by this person. So I think specifically of my breakup. I won't go into specifics, but terrible. It was just a not so great relationship. But it got to. I broke up with this person over the phone. So I still have guilt about I should have faced them in person and did it. But the problem was I was so terrified that they were going to try to do something to hurt me. They didn't have a driver's license. I did. Are they going to run me off the road or something like that? It seems silly now.
Well, there was also some manipulation.
Right. And I don't want to go. Right. I don't want to blast this person. Yeah. But like, it's stuff like that. So I carried that for so long, where it was like I should have gone there. And I probably should have. Yes. But at the same time, it doesn't eat me up as much as it used to.
But you know what's fascinating about that? You know what's really interesting, especially with romantic involvements, is I'm 57 years old. My first breakup, we were dating in high school, ended badly. And that would have been 1983. Okay?
Sure.
There are times at Google I'm going, I should look. Oh no, she's probably still mad. Because I'm still convinced. I'm convinced that she's going to go, how dare you? You ruined it. And I guarantee you this person is off having an incredible life and probably never thinks about it. But when you hurt people, you carry that forever. You carry that forever. Yep. I guarantee you that she's living in Palm Springs right now, having a great time of her life. But to me, I'm going, she heard my name, the anger.
But then it goes back, again, not to pride, but a word we can't find, where it's almost like people think of you more times than they really are.
Yeah, that's it.
You're not the center of these people's lives that you think you are.
You just nailed it. You just nailed it. I think that's it. We are convinced that this person is sitting around going, with that Everett DeMaurier.
It's the running joke. This is what I do, because it's going back to Melissa's anxiety about her coworkers.
Did I just turn this off?
Like that. Can you hear now?
Oh, I can. Okay.
Yeah. Going back to Melissa's anxieties, is I was doing a running joke, because she would tell me something. I'm trying to think of one that she just said. Oh, okay. So she gets this new scrub cap. So she works in an ophthalmology center. They do like LASIK and stuff like that. She works with LASIK. She's like a technician. So she gets a new scrub hat because they need to wear a scrub cap when they're in the operating room for LASIK. And she goes, "This looks stupid. This hat looks stupid, and everyone's going to make fun of me for wearing this hat." So I said, "All right, let's play out this scenario." So I go, "I'm the doctor and I'm doing LASIK," and I go, "All right, Melissa, what are you wearing on your head right now?" And she's cracking
and the scalpel goes through the eye, and the woman just jumps up, everything. The fire starts. Right. Yes.
And it's just and you play out that kind of stuff. So that's stuff I'll do to her all the time, is when she'll say, and it's just something that should be done to me, and it's the stuff you should do in your self-talk. Like, do you really think this person is sitting down here right now and having a podcast, and they're talking to their son and going, "That Everett guy, let me tell you, he freaking killed a man in Singapore."
And then they've got the walls with pictures
with the
red string.
Yeah.
Yes. come into my
Yeah.
room and there's candles there.
Yeah,
This is the last sandwich you
If
ate.
people thought about us as much as we
People
think
don't.
they thought about, it's the same kind of thing as like, so I started doing like exercising, I do like yoga sometimes, or like at home workouts. I would love to go out, you can't see it because the camera isn't pointing it, I have a deck right out here, and I have a huge yard. I would love to go out there and just do a workout or do yoga, but I'm like, their windows are gonna see me doing it. I don't think they'd care. They would look out and they would say, here's this weirdo in the Hawaiian shirt doing yoga when
They
he
would
probably
probably think I should be out there doing yoga.
Yeah.
They would not go, hey, Bill, wait, you can
Right.
see this weirdo.
Yeah, and it's 3 seconds, and then your dishwasher dinged, and you're gonna go do that, and you don't. Nobody thinks about it.
But-
And it's the same kind of things of where we think like everyone's looking at me when I'm in public. You know, it's this. There's another weird going back to weird anxieties that I have, and I think a lot of people have this one where you're in a store and you're a good moral person, so you're not going to steal something, but I don't want them to think I'm going to steal something. I do that all the time. Because sometimes I'll come in and I'll just look, but I'm like, they're going to think I'm stealing something. So I need to be like, oh, yes, this ketchup brand seems good for my liking. I have total intentions to buy this, but I'm going to need to price this with another store. Good day. No one cares.
I do that if I'll like stick my car keys in my pocket.
All right.
I'll make sure that the camera sees me stick the key. Yeah,
I'll do. And it's it's like eating the food before you pay for it, and then you go through the checkout. No one cares. People do it all the time. But Melissa does it, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, you can't do that. You can't open the bag of chips and start eating it before you. You can. Nobody cares.
So here, I'm going to throw myself in front of the bus here.
Okay.
During those desperate times when I was younger and stuff, in that North Carolina time frame, I would take a shopping cart to a store, pretend to be shopping, grazing all the time, get to the end, very dramatically say, oh, no, I left my wallet in the car, and leave and not do that. And at the same time, I have zero guilt for that. How can I choose the moral things? Okay, you stole something. You stole that. And then I go, oh yeah, well that's no big deal. But this guy made him cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make that less wrong. It just means I filed it over here.
Yeah, and that's what it goes into. It's almost going back to that rational irrational, and the fact where your anxieties and your stuff is different from us, and it's almost like some of yours are not to you and some of yours are to you. It just depends on where in the spectrum, and there's almost no rhyme or reason to where they go.
But I think if there's one takeaway from this, one nugget of genius that you just found is that nobody is thinking about you.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, I can't even remember.
If people were thinking about us as much as we thought they wouldn't have time to do anything else.
Right. Well, and then it's you put yourself in the situations where you're looking at someone doing something. You don't give that dude a second glance because you're thinking about yourself or what someone else is thinking about you. You're not. So that person that you think is noticing you and thinking this big jerk is freaking kicking my lawn gnome down. They're not even thinking about it because they're thinking about their car mechanic thinks they're a jerk.
Right.
That's the thing. So it's again, I don't know, pride. I guess selfishness feels right for it because we're so naturally selfish as a species. So it does. You're thinking about somebody thinking about you, but they're also doing the same thing. So it's nothing. It's nothing. It just cancels it out.
So basically, what we've discovered is it's not that we're normal, but it's that the whole world is just as crazy as we are.
That's really what it comes down to.
So we are normal in the fact that there is no.
It's just normal. Different buckets.
Right.
So like somebody who's going to have 500 cats in their house, we're going to look at it going, that's absolutely insane. But you know what they're not probably freaking out about? somebody breaking into their house, or not getting enough food, or getting the toothbrush from the dentist office.
Yeah.
So
that would make me crazy.
Right. So it's different. It's different crazies.
So everybody is basically normal because everybody is the equal amount of crazy.
What's that one line? It's Incredibles. It's one of my favorite lines ever. Syndrome says it because he has, you know, if you ever, I don't know how you would not see the Incredibles, but you know, the premise of it is this guy doesn't have any powers. It's a world for a superhero, so he invents all these things to give him powers so he can pretend to save, and then he just basically just monopolizes on the thing. But he goes, you know, everybody's going to have access to all these things, and everybody can have powers, the people that don't. And the quote he says is, because when everyone's special, no one is. It's like one of my favorite lines. When everyone's special, no one is.
Yeah.
And then to add in the comedy, there's another funnier take of that. I'm going to quote The Office because it's all I do. There's a Michael Scott line where he goes, well, my mom said that normal people or average people are the most special people in the world. That's why God made so many of them.
Right. Yeah. God made a major percentage of the people to be special. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing. We're not as special as we think.
Right.
Nobody's thinking about us as much as we want. As weird as we are, we're probably, people next to us are just as weird.
In different ways.
So, but I think, I mean, the whole thing is there's things we want to get better at. There's things we want to fix, and there's certain, but it's not that we're broken. We can rewire. We can get better. Mm-hmm. We can get better results. Mm-hmm. We can be better fathers and husbands and creators and community, but we're not broken.
Right.
You agree?
Yeah. Well, or I would take it the other step that we are broken, but everyone's broken in different ways. I don't think so. I feel like I would lean more on that spectrum, which makes you not broken because everyone is.
Right.
So it's a double negative. It cancels itself out.
Yeah, but if I'm broken, then I can never be unbroken.
Right. Right.
So that's why I was just,
Yeah, so, I would look at it that way.
Well, I mean, that's not true because there are people that go through, people lose someone, you know, our neighbor just lost his wife.
Right.
When I saw him, he was broken. Mm-hmm. I mean, but he's so broken isn't a permanent state.
Yeah, but then you're looking at two different definitions, like how we were just using broken. I wouldn't use that at the same.
That was a spot.
Right. And I would argue too. It's like going back to like rewiring. It just comes with how you react to certain situations. So my biggest thing has been like sleep lately. When you get a constant bedtime and time that you're awake, it helps your mental, and I can tell when it does it, but I still don't do it.
Yeah.
If it, you know, stuff like that, you talk about like exercise being good and all these different triggers, and it's putting all those things together in order to, you know, get that rewiring effect or get that.
And I think what's interesting too about what you're saying is the fact that there's a difference between rewiring and getting better and giving up that idea of being perfect.
Right.
Of being, you know, there's never enough money in the bank. There's never enough, your waistline is never small enough.
It goes back to the riddle that my go-to riddle is what's more evil than the devil, what's holier than God, the rich have it, the rich don't need it, the poor have it, or the rich need it, the poor have it, and you eat it, you'll die. Nothing.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like, it's the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You're a very smart person.
Sure.
You must have a good father.
Yeah, that's what it is. I was going to say, I have a psych degree, if you can't tell. I didn't mention that earlier, but I've been throwing up like DSM and a bunch of other terms.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
This is I love you, and this was just a great time. But I forgot I forgot what it's like to talk to you like this. Nick and I have done a lot of creative stuff over the years. We did many plays together. I wrote them and was in a couple, and I remember thinking, and there were a couple where he and I had lead roles together, and I remember thinking we're getting ready to go on stage, and I'll never forget this. I remember thinking, this is the greatest phrase ever. I'm getting ready to go on stage with my son. And it was a scene that you and I had. I think it was the Australian.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So we're going on and we're getting ready to do our deal together. And I'm getting ready to go on stage with my son. So I have all those things that I never celebrate. We did this great, documentary that Nick helped me produce, and he just did a phenomenal job. And I don't think you get to celebrate. I think, and I'm blaming men more than women.
Yeah.
You tend to focus on, I never taught my kids to ski, instead of, I made a documentary with my son.
Or do my kids even want to ski?
Right.
I could care less about skiing.
It's on my list.
Right, I'm sure it is. And that probably eats you up. I never
had a boat. I never took my kids on a boat because I never owned a boat. Right.
I don't care. I don't have any interest. Would I do it if there's a boat right there? Yeah, but I don't sit up all night and go, God, my dad, if only he took me on a boat, then he would have been a good father to me. That's what, when I was doing the psych eval, and they were asking me about my childhood. Well, my dad never took me boating or skiing, so you know.
So I turned out
okay.
So I practically raised myself.
Yeah, you're going to need a higher dosage of this antidepressant. Then why didn't you say so sooner?
Oh, he never took you boating? We need these.
Yeah, we have a separate.
I'm sorry. I can't help you. I don't specialize in boating, skiing. Well, you're going to need a team down there.
Yeah, I mean, going back to like the creative stuff, it's stuff that I like doing, but I have this mental thing where I go and I get super passionate about something, and then I'll switch into something else, and it's almost like there's not enough things for me to do. I got to do all these different things. So I just, and I haven't done anything like this in a long time, so I've enjoyed like using this part of my brain again. But yeah, it's like I'm in the process of trying to create a clothing company, and the thought behind it is it's mental health quotes. It's stuff like this. So as a teenager, as a kid, you'll remember this. I dressed in black constantly. I didn't wear anything other than black.
You were like the punk. No, you weren't even punk rock. You were like a long-haired Johnny Cash.
I was. I don't know what. So you looked in my closet, and it was just one shade of black. So as I got older, my favorite things, as you can see, is obnoxious, bright colored shirts. So yeah, that's not for everybody, but I'm trying to make something that focuses on that gives back to different mental health charities and has different phrases on them to benefit that. I hired I did some work on designing the bio and what it is. I've been trying to figure out what it is, and one thing always stuck with me is it's using the canvas that you have, which is your clothing. The clothing is your canvas, and what do you want to broadcast on that? So one of the shirts that I have, it just says "Create More," and it's just like a reminder to myself, because I sit and I'm like, for example, I used to do like live streaming and stuff like that, and I got decent at it, and I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and it just turned out it just wasn't me. But then I'm like, I can't do that. I'm going to mess up. I don't want to. I don't even know where to start. I'd rather sit here and watch Instagram videos for 30 minutes than go out and just film a podcast by myself, or edit something or whatever.
Right.
So it's like a constant reminder. I think that had a point. I don't remember what it was, or otherwise it was just shameless self-promotion.
No.
I don't remember.
No, I think what you were going at is there's a need for that. There's a creative. I think with me it's funny because I have it too, but I always feel guilty about it. That the time spent here, I should spend at work. The time spent here, I should spend. So I feel as a father and a husband guilty with this stuff because, it should be done in the traditional stuff.
Right. But you think of the time that it takes, and it's nothing. The biggest problem I had, and obviously some creative pursuits are going to have longer than others. I can't, as a married man, stream 7 hours a day. I just can't. I can't do it.
Well, you know what's funny that reminds me of this? There was a guy I worked with years ago, and we had been married a couple of years, and this guy, you know, he was on 3 golf leagues.
Right.
And he would go, you know, and do this and this and this. And where are you going? I'm going out with these guys. And he had 2 little daughters and everything like that. And ran into him like several years later. Oh yeah, I'm divorced.
Yeah.
And I married, that girl that we worked with, she divorced her husband and we married. Oh yeah, and I'm divorced from her too.
Yeah.
So part of you at that time when you're dealing with that new marriage thing and that control thing, and how come he gets to go out and I gotta be home at 7? But then you go, but I've been married almost 30 years.
Right.
So, because right now I would not be sitting in a bar someplace going, damn, straight up, I made the right choice. Yeah. I'd rather be doing this than be married for 30 years. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then you look at half the other things is how do you get them involved? Prime example, you and I are father and son, and we find a way to do creative stuff together.
Right.
You know, Melissa works on the clothing company with me. You know, you got
Mom did all the stuff with the plays.
With the plays, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So you have all this other. You just find ways to get them roped in with you, and you can do that with just about anything. And obviously, it depends on the situation. But yeah, I mean,
this is good stuff, Nick. I think we got some real nuggets of wisdom here. I love talking to you. I love doing this stuff, and we got to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. My fortress is always open. My security system and my.
I'll bring some old food, and we can leave the doors open.
Yeah,
and I'll bring some toothbrushes.
I was just gonna say, well, the party favorites will be toothbrushes.
I'll get ahead of the old lady at the line.
Yeah. So here's what the next video is. The next video is I'm going to introduce you to a new psychological term, which is one of my favorites because it's so over the wall, but it freaking works. It's called flooding. And it's where you take a person who's afraid of bats and you put them in a room full of bats.
No.
Obviously, that's not going to work.
That's called bat.
But it's like you stick so many of these stressors that you're so worried about. It works better for these like anxiety-inducing things, and you just do them over and over and over, and they're all there. And then it just becomes because you just did it 700 times. Right. So you go into the store, and the flooding technique would be you go in and you have that person go in front of you, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then your brain stops freaking out because it just happens. It's a normal thing. You know, so that's the next thing. We just flood you.
Again, this popped in my head, and it doesn't really have anything to do with what you're saying, but I think it's a cool way to end this because it's kind of interesting. There was this old TV show in the 70s called Quark. Can I ever tell you about this?
I've heard of it.
It's like this really bad science fiction where they took a pot and they put Star Trek and Star Wars and a bunch of other stuff, and they made it.
I hear it made fun of a lot.
It is. Yeah. So the pilot is this. It's a garbage ship, and it's got to go to get the bad guy, the super duper bad guy.
Right.
And along the way, they come up with the source, and the source says, "I'm with you. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm with you." And they go, "Really?" And they go, "Yeah. I mean, with you, there's nothing." So they get there and they get up to the bad guy, and there it is. And they go, "Yeah, well, you're in trouble because you got the source. Tell him, source." And it's quiet. And they go, "Source?" And the source goes, "Wow, that guy's really big." What are you talking about? He goes, "Yeah, but I had no idea how big that guy is." But you're all... So the whole point of this is they found out they could do it. This guy, blah, 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 blah. But I'll never forget that sometimes when we're not afraid of something, it's because, we just got money in the bank. There's no big deal. And we go, well, I had no idea it was that expensive.
Right.
Because money is not going to do it. This is going to do it over here.
Right.
So that's my weird analogy. Nick, I love you. Thanks for doing this with me, and we'll have to do it again.
Do you have like a normal outro, like click the like button?
You don't have that. Oh yeah, do that. Do you know how to do that? Do that. Do the click the like button thing.
Oh, you want me to do like the whole announcement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the series, we'd love it if you could click that like button. If you enjoyed it, share it with your friends. On Instagram, you're going to see that little paper airplane. Go ahead and send it to somebody that you think needs it. If this is YouTube, I have no idea what platforms he's putting this on, so I'm just going to do them all. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell notification so you don't miss a video. Give a like if you like the video. Leave a comment below on what you think of what we're talking about. Just to get some dialogue going on in the comment. I could do this for like an hour because there's so many mantras that you can just. But it's always like,
if they're at my house and there's leaves, break them up.
Come on in.
You know,
I got a key under the mat. You want to come in?
You want to come in the house? Just come on in the house. If you have old food, don't throw it away. Bring it to me.
It's like that one, going back to The Office, I'm going to end it on The Office, where Andy's like, he's doing a sales pitch, and he goes, here's my house key. If you want, he goes, you want me to come to your house if I need paper? If you just need somebody to chat, if you want to just hang out, my Wi-Fi password is Eat, Pray, Love.
And so is mine.
But anyway.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
That's it. It's
That's
it. It's just a bye. Bye.
Bye. You are incredible. Holy cow.
Things hurt my ears so bad.
You are incredible. I can't tell you how much fun I've had. Nick, you're so